I think we're about
Okay.
ready to start here, don't you?
Yes, let's go ahead and kick off.
Oh,
Welcome everyone to today's webinar on the 5 love languages of generative AI. We're going to have a good conversation about how to use generative AI tools to improve your product management game. So with that, let me tell you just a little bit about 280 Group. We are an outcome-driven product partner, and we offer training and consulting services to individuals and teams who are looking to improve their product management practice. Yeah, so we are excited to share some information with you today. A little bit about us. I'm Robyn Brooks, Director of Product Management here at 280 Group, which is always a fun job. And I work on our curriculum and consulting products for product managers serving product teams. And over to you, Dean.
thank you. And if you're looking at your screen, yes, I'm the one with the face for radio. And also be one of your hosts today. I'm a principal consultant and trainer. I see I've got some former people who've attended some of my agile product management and optimal product management and digital product management classes. Glad to teach those. And if you're not familiar with how we run, got a few rules of the road. Let's talk about our FAQ first here. Will this be recorded? Absolutely, yes, it will be recorded here. And in fact, if somebody comes late and asks in the chat, will it be recorded? You have my permission to say, yes, it will be recorded. All right. So yes, whoops, we just lost our view there. Let me try that again. Give me a second here. Mural decided just to have a little burp on me. There we go.
There we go.
There we go. Back at it. All righty there. Got to get my menu again. Okay, we're good to go here. Yeah, all right. Make sure I'm presenter view. So it looks like we just had a little glitch here. Give me a second.
No worries.
Yeah. Okay, good. So from that, also, will we be answering questions? If you use the Q&A box, and if we have time, and if it's relevant, we're going to answer those questions. If there's missed questions or unanswered questions, we'll try to answer them afterwards. Are we available for consulting, training, and optimization? You betcha. And we'll give you some links on how to contact with that. Tools, you're going to be seeing a few tools here. ChatGPT Plus, you're going to see Claude, you're going to see a little bit of Bard, Bing Chat, and Zoom. And of course, you're in Mural right now. I've already linked to you, gave you that link, and there'll be some URLs for some nifty things at the end there. Hey, rules for the road. We want to keep this a safe place. We want to keep this fun. We want to keep this a webinar that everyone enjoys. So be respectful of each other's. We'd like you to participate, but we want you to stay on topic. Be mindful if you share anything in the chat or the questions. Don't share anything private. You're not allowed to share. Use the chat box for comments, QA for questions. Respect the time limits, and mostly have fun here. Got a few navigation legends here, but I'm going to be walking us through this here. So I think the first thing I want to do is we're going to go ahead and run a poll and get just a feel for the room here. So you should see a poll right now, a little Zoom poll here, and on a scale of 1 to 5. All right, how useful is generative AI in your work as a product manager? All right, if you're not a product manager, just pretend that how useful it is for you at work here. It rocks so you can snooze. It helps so you can fake the rest. Generative AI tries hard, but you got to fix it all the time. It's nothing but spam, so you delete it, or it sucks so bad that it's dead to you. I don't know about this Gen AI thing. It's dead to me. Alrighty, give people a few more seconds here. Alrighty, let's go see what the results are. I'm going to end the poll. We're going to see the results here. End the poll. Share the results here. And it looks like pretty much everyone's in the middle. It tries hard, but, close but no cigar. All right. So we're actually going to be talking points you run into with that. So thanks for participating in that poll. And I think, I don't know. What's next, Robyn?
All right. I hear you have a joke for me.
I use this joke, and because it reminds me of when I was a summer camp counselor. All right.
Uh-huh.
Um, I was there for like 5 summers. So by the 5th year, me and the other veteran counselors, we just numbered the jokes and just yelled out the numbers at like punchlines. But then that last year, I got assigned a brand new, what do you call it, a junior in high school, Trevor, who was going to be a camp counselor, and I needed to train him. And Trevor's hearing me yell out the numbers. He's like, "Hey, Dean, what's the best joke to tell?" And I said, "Well, you got to be careful. I mean, I like 42, but," and before I could give him the warning, there's Trevor yelling at everyone, 42, 42. And there he is, annoying everyone. The little picture that was generated by Dali, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's just like, nobody laughs. And, of course, the camp director finally comes up to Trevor and says, because Trevor, great joke, but, it's all about the delivery. And if that's confusing, think about how confused ChatGPT is or Claude is.
Mm-hmm.
When you come up to this blank slate, you come up to that prompt window and just shout at it the punchline. Imagine being like Trevor and doing some of these, shouting the punchline, like, "Hey, give me a market analysis of pet care on demand." It doesn't know who you are. It doesn't know your role. It doesn't know what you want. It has little clue of what this pet care thing is. It doesn't understand some context here. And here, all you just put that prompt in here. And so, of course, you're like, why do I even use this thing? I don't know, Robyn, you see any of these other, what would you call it, shouting the punchlines at generative AI? Any of these others, like ambiguous prompt or vague prompt? You got any favorites here on this list?
Yeah, I love the tell me about a pet care app. Things that are just very vague. And this is where you hear about these tools like ChatGPT and Claude that will that have this reputation now for making things up. Well, the less you give it, the more likely it is to be a little bit off of what you actually meant. So it's
Yeah.
important to give it as much context as you can.
Yeah. I mean, you can't be shouting it at
Hmm.
your generative AI tool, right? You got to actually be more of a, well, more like a prompt whisperer. And
Yeah.
as I was thinking about that, and I was thinking, like, look, you're on the other side of the country. You went to different schools. We have a totally
Hmm.
different, yet we share one thing in common, which is
Yep.
our background in the theater. So I thought, what
Absolutely.
better way to talk about prompt whispering than from the viewpoint of Stanislavski,
Uh-huh.
because my history in theater history tells me he did that in response to earlier forms of theater where it was just yelling as loud as you can, and the audience just sitting there saying, "Shut up, please." So what is your take on this slide here?
What's my motivation? So
Yeah.
when we're talking to generative AI, we need to give it enough context for it to be able to give us the performance that we're asking for.
Yeah, I think that's a great definition here. It's just, think of it like a blank slate, like an actor who doesn't know what their
Hmm.
role is here. And I know some of you are doing that already, which I think
Hmm.
is a good, excuse for us to run our second poll here. Because I'm very curious about, give me a second. I got to run the poll the right way. Go back to the polls. Oh, there we go. Got the wrong button pushed here. Let me launch the second poll here. I am curious about which of you, what type of strategies you're using to create that contextual dialogue here. Do some of you tell your chatbot a tale so it can tell your saga? Do you supply it with a feast of text-based treats? Do you animate the chat with segments and personas? Do you exhibit a gallery of 2 or few shot prompts? And do you fine tune it with a drizzle of human feedback? Let's see how people are using this. It looks like we're getting a good mix here. Looks like we got
Yeah.
some people, and this is multiple choice, by the way, so you should be able to pick more than one answer. All right. Give about another few seconds here. We're going to shut this poll down. All righty. Go ahead and end this poll here and then share the results here. And it looks like people are doing a pretty good job of doing some of these things, and other things are not doing so much. So for example, I see that not a lot of people are telling the story first so that their session understands the
Mhm.
story here. Or there maybe we could do a little better with segments, or some examples here. And that's what we're going to talk about here. We're going to be talking about how we work more productively as product managers, product owners,
Mhm.
directors of product, VPOs, CPOs, BAs, whatever your role happens to be here as you use these generative AI tools here. All right. And as I thought about how we do this, I was thinking about, hey, taking time to tell a story, connecting with structures. And as I was looking through these, they reminded me of a book I read back in the 90s, because I'm older than
Mhm.
dirt, from a marriage counselor who gave 5 tips on communication with people who are trying to communicate a story of affection for each other.
Mhm.
And what Chapman talked about was giving quality time, words of affirmation, physical touch, receiving gifts, and acts of service. So as I looked at
Mhm.
some of these strategies, I was saying, well, there's a time of learning where we tell the story. We take time early on. There's words of clarity, giving it structures it understands,
Mhm.
giving it touches of creativity, gifts of insight, acts of refinement. And that's what got us to these 5 love languages of generative AI. Now, some of you in the room are going, that's great, but you want to help decode that acronym? It's the classic, what's in it for me? And
Yeah,
some of you are sitting there going, well,
exactly.
Dean, I've now been in this webinar for X amount of minutes here. I'm eating my lunch at my desk. Why do I even care about this? So hopefully I can talk about it. Some of these, think about the times you have those long sessions in
Mhm.
ChatGPT or Claude, where you got a nice long, as the duration of the session increases, what I've, what I've come to understand is that the level of context setting decreases and the specific instruction increases here, or at least that's the
Mhm.
optimal experience you want. You don't want to have to
Yeah.
keep setting the context every 5 steps, even though
Mhm.
the context window doesn't have a long lifetime to it. Um, and so as you work down sort of this funnel of the session, you
Mhm.
think about this as a funnel. You provide a lot of context at the top, less context at the bottom of this funnel. And again, some of you are saying, all right, that's great. It's not showing me how to get my work done. So I thought about, all right, what are some instances where we as product people have to have these type of long conversations? And it gets
Mhm.
back to that old smoke jumpers paradise, I talk about, where as a product manager or product owner, we are sometimes, actually more times than not, smoke jumped. In fact, I'd be curious in
Mhm.
the chat to see if anybody feels like they've been parachuted into any of these situations here. So for example, there's a marketing blitz, and you maybe it's like, hey, congratulations, you just been parachuted in. Or
Yep.
we got tech debt, um, emergency feature delivery, acquisition airdrop, customer
Yeah.
crisis descent, rapid MVP jump. I'm just curious in the Hippo directive, drop,
Uh-huh.
and this,
Yeah.
the startup launch skydive here. So we've all been airlifted and dropped at some point here, and so this is where generative AI can be very helpful in deciphering that. So let's look at some of these tools and how we might go ahead and decode some of this here. All right. Um, so first, let's go ahead and do a time of learning. And when you think about setting the context for generative AI, the first part is telling generative AI your story so it can tell your story. And the thing is, in product management, we have all sorts of storytelling frameworks. We have the lean canvas, we have the customer journey canvas, we have the business case, that horrible Word document. And then we have like Amazon working backwards here. So we have this host of storytelling mechanisms here. Now, for today's demos, or today's what do you call it, presentation, we're going to be actually using a little bit of Amazon working backwards, and we're going to be using the press release, the futuristic press release, combined with the FAQ. And imagine, here you come into work on Monday. and somebody says, hey, did you see in the news here? We got a new project. And you find out that your CEO has told the whole world that, guess what? You're going to be building a new app. You get a little Slack message saying, hey, Robyn, welcome to this product here. Guess what? You're the lead product manager on this. Here's what Pilar already told the rest of the world. So you get to build this now. So now imagine you've been airdropped in here and you're like, oh, gee. So you go to generative AI tool, and then you pull out one of these prompt formulas that you picked up. I mean, for example, I've seen people peddling these what I call these parlor trick types of prompts here, like, oh, buy my 5 product management prompts here, or buy these prompts, and they all talk about the same thing. Give it a context, a task, instruction, clarity, and there's a wide variety of them. But we actually have something that in our toolkits, we actually have a template that I feel like is a great storytelling mechanism for kicking off things. So if you have your press release and you have your FAQ, if you can fill out this problem framing, I think we can set the context. I don't know. You were critical on this particular template. Why don't you give us a little story on it?
Yeah. So I'll just give a quick background. This is from our new 280 Group Playbook, which is a set of over 20 templates that help follow a good, solid product management process across industry types. And if you stay tuned until the end, we're actually going to give a sample set of templates from this playbook as a giveaway at the end.
Right.
But yeah, we're using these templates to help give ChatGPT the context that it needs in order to be effective.
Yeah. So you've been airdropped in, you've got your press release, and you've got your FAQ, and now you've got your template that you've taken and translated into a format for a ChatGPT, or in this case, we're looking at Claude. All right. And then we go ahead and ask it a question. You notice that I put it in a context question format here. So I put all the press release here, and then the FAQ, and then the format, and then I ask it a question here that's contextually based. And I got a pretty good response from Claude. All right. It says, I am a busy product manager, travels for work, the owner of Tiptoe, my beloved tortoise, who stays with pet sitters while I travel. And I need urgent care and advice from time to time during off hours. To get quality advice, when my pet has an issue here, and I need to know if I need to take my pet to a vet urgently and easily book an appointment here. But sometimes they're closed on weekends and on holidays, and it's difficult. And so that creates problems for our product manager here, especially if you notice I told it, hey, you're a product manager. Here's your press release. Here's your FAQ. And oh, by the way, your tortoise Tiptoe ate wrapping paper that he thought was a flower. Do I need to rush him to the vet here? And it's Christmas morning, that nobody's open here. And so we actually put that prompt in. And I just to show you, I put that prompt in Claude here. So we're looking at Claude, and you can see I put that in, and it generates. So here's your press release, and here's the FAQ. Here's that problem framing canvas. Here's the question. And we got good results. We also got good results from ChatGPT as well on this. Took the same format, gave us good results as well. And these are good enough results to start unpacking the problem as a product manager, to start thinking about this, because now you have a contextual frame of reference. The session you're in has a contextual frame of reference. So the next thing to do is maybe give it some words of clarity. And that is speaking data to these text-based chatbots in formats they like. A lot of times we don't realize that because these are text-based, we can actually give it data in different text formats. For example, I have an example here of total addressable market, service addressable market, and service obtainable market in a JSON format. And that's a format that ChatGPT, that Bard, that Claude understands. So if I want to add data to the story I'm already trying to unpack, I can do that. I can use YAML as a format, as a repeatable format to keep reminding the session, this is your business outcomes, these are your product outcomes, here are your user outcomes. And I can even take data from CSV, in a CSV format from Excel and push it straight into ChatGPT or Claude or Bard. And in fact, I actually did that, but for this demo, I did it in Bard. I would imagine you're curious why I did that in Bard, Robyn. I already
I'm
told you the secret.
curious.
Okay, you're curious. I actually
Yeah.
told. So with the cutoff date for tools, some of the tools like ChatGPT is September 2021. I went up to date market information. So I took
Ah.
most of that prompt I created before, but now I gave it this outcome canvas. All right. And when
Mhm.
I ran that, it looked up more recent data. Let's go here. And it actually gave me some information in these formats I asked for.
Mhm.
It
Yeah,
gave
Bing
me,
Chat is up to date. That is something
yeah,
that people get a little bit confused by.
right.
A lot of the
Yeah.
AI tools have a cutoff date, like
Mhm.
ChatGPT, like
Yeah.
Claude. They're not constantly fed information, and they can't search the open web. Bing Chat
Mhm.
can.
Yeah.
So it's good to use if you need up to date information, and you can use
Yeah.
it to feed the other AI tools.
Yep, exactly. And that's why I said, give it to me in JSON, give it to me in
Hmm.
CSV, because now that data is portable. I can put it in
Hmm.
packets and say like, hey, give this to me in JSON, give this to me in CSV. So now I have this data that's up to date because the way it's wired, and Robyn, you were spot on. It takes your search, it takes your request, does a
Hmm.
search, goes out to GPT-4, comes back, finalizes it in the search, and then gives you the result. So it gives you more up-to-date information. And it also gives you citations.
Hmm.
So this is, and then you can copy them and paste this information into whatever your threads are to give it more, to speak data to it and give it that refinement. And by the way, like I said, Bing gave me great results here. And I was able to use that, and I can use that information in my next love language step, where I give it touches of creativity. So you notice this is the prompt. I want to create a persona, but I want to make sure it has market data before I give it that persona. So I
Hmm.
look at your persona, your wonderful persona template. I'm going to give you a second to talk about here, but I also use the data from the Tam, Sam, and Sam that Bing gave me, as well as that segment information that Bing gave me. I include it in the prompt and I get a pretty good persona. Um, I think, like I said, I love, by the way, tell me more about this persona template because I like
Hmm.
it a lot personally.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of nuance to this one, right? This is
Yeah,
a proto persona template because best
thank you. Yeah.
practice for personas is that really once they're fully developed, they should be based on a composite of actual customers, actual users that you work with. So when you're doing a proto persona, it's a good place to get started. If you don't use personas or you don't use them often in your product management practice and you haven't really socialized them well, starting with a proto persona is great because it gives you a way to identify with your users. But it is going to be based on some assumptions that you need to validate later on. So we're going to start with proto personas today, and generative AI is a good jumping off point.
And you'll notice, Robyn, that where I
Hmm.
want generative AI to fill in the blanks, I use these brackets. And that's
Yep.
basically almost what would you call it, a Mad Libs type of prompt. I say, look, fill in the blanks for me. So when I give it this prompt to fill in the blanks and say like, and I give it these blanks here, it actually does a pretty good job. Like when I asked for the persona, it filled this out. And then because I've done the persona and that's now part of the session along with the story, I can now tell a storyline. And again, one of your other tools here about this. Tell us about the storyboard.
Yeah, storyboarding is a great way to start to wrap your head around what the user journey looks like. And it's a fun tool to do with groups or even individually, but being able to really start to empathize with your users through the stages of their journey. What are their pain points? What are some opportunities for delighters, things that would really help them move through the job that they're trying to do here, right?
Yeah.
The job to be done. And yeah, this is one of the templates
Yeah.
that's included in our full playbook.
Yeah. Now, I use the forms for it to fill out, but
Mhm.
I also did a little bit of formatting, because remember I was talking about using familiar structures. I'm actually using Markdown. So when it
Mhm.
sees this formatting, it knows to put these in bold. And again, it uses the new numbering. And by the way, this is something you don't have in your template. Write it in the voice of Jim Gaffigan. Right. So this is another way of adding personality. And by the way, Claude did not disappoint when I asked it. So you could almost hear him saying it. I was reading like number 3 here, you know. So it's Christmas morning and Tina's visiting her family out of town. And she gets a call from her pet sitter saying Tiptoe ate wrapping paper. Oh, that can't be good. Tina's freaking out and Tiptoe's really getting sick and there's no better. And you can almost hear him telling the story. And
Mhm.
this is another way to animate your stories here using these tools here. Um, Once you've done this, and now that your session is getting more informed, think about it. We've told it the story, the problem. We've told it who we are, what we're doing, what we're after. We've given it the story. We've given it the pains and the gains and the jobs to be done. We've told it, we've given it data to help shape the personas and the segments. We've created the storyboard here now. And so then it's a matter of just giving it some additional insights here and linking it back to what we're actually trying to accomplish here in product management. And that's, of course, to deliver value. Now, what I did is took your template here for the outcome tree, and I
Mhm.
actually used your example. And what I did is I took the actual words from this and said, here's the first branch, create for me a new branch. But I think what I'd like to do is, as I zoom in, is to talk about this template here and why it is critically
Sure.
important that in a dialogue like this, that at some point we need to think about the outcome tree.
Yeah, the outcome tree is our way of simplifying the thought process around how you build features and into your products, right? Because we know as product managers, usually we're given the bottom, right? Here's the list of features that you need to build. The hippo came and told you that they already told everybody that we're going to build this, or they have a key client that wants this built. So you know what it is that you're supposed to build and how success is going to be measured. This is supposed to produce this outcome, right? Or this result. So you need to work backwards, right? You need to say, okay, if this is the feature, what is the business outcome we're trying to feed here? What is the product outcome, the change in human behavior that this feature actually results from? So you need to kind of go back and look at, okay, well, why did the highest paid opinion individual, the executive that told me we have to build this, what outcome were they trying to achieve? And how am I going to really measure that, right? So
Yeah.
we know that we get the delivered the thing that we need to do, but we really need to take the time to go back and
Right.
build the story around that and validate it. And that's what the outcome tree is really designed to help you do, is to organize features around product outcomes that tie into the business outcomes.
Yeah, and I appreciate that. And just to follow up on that, I actually took your example
Hmm.
and fed it in as the part of the prompt here. And as a result, what I was able to do was able to say, look, here's the right branch, or branch number
Hmm.
one. Give me the left side branch, or a second branch on a second outcome here. And
Hmm.
ChatGPT did not disappoint. It gave me a what I thought was a pretty valuable outcome here. And then it
Hmm.
spoke to success metrics. The numbers probably need to be adjusted. Okay. But the fact of the matter is, if you haven't done this before, now you're starting not from scratch. You're starting, like,
Yeah.
well, okay, let me look. I think 30% is a little bit ambitious here, 20%. And like all this, we don't use this to sit there and do the work for us. We're using it to scaffold our conversations here. But now that we have that connection of the story to the business value here, then everything else just becomes these little acts of refinement. So, for example, I like the second outcome better than the first. I want to pursue that. I want to build a position statement off that. So you notice I took the position statement you have here, and instead of using the square brackets, I went ahead and used curly brackets, but it's still a fill in the blanks type of prompt. I also did the same thing for the problem statement and the solution hypothesis statement here. Tell me what we're getting out of these statements here, though.
Yeah, so this is really an opportunity for you to tell the story of what your product or the specific feature that you're building in your product does and how it's differentiated from competition, right? So you are telling the story, and you're doing it in a concise way. And that's what this template really helps you do, because if you're looking at how you compare what features you have versus other options, other potential solutions, those could be competing products. Those could also be homegrown products. Those could be the alternative is doing nothing, right? It's
Yeah,
important
yeah,
to remember
exactly.
those as well. And so that's what this template really kind of helps you put into practice, right?
Yeah.
Gives you the guideline. And this, again, can give context to a generative AI tool that it would be lacking if you just asked it generically for a positioning statement. It may not be in a format that's useful.
Right. And I like this format, that we're using here. We were
Mhm.
just teaching it to our Agile class this morning on, you can use a format like this, not just for your stakeholders, but you can use it for, before you do a refinement meeting with your
Mhm.
engineering team to say, hey, before we get into arguments over what's the best search technology, let's remember who we're serving here. I like the fact that
Mhm.
also you're treating the solution as a hypothesis as opposed
Mhm.
to, dogma. And I think that helps us because, again, I got some good prompts here, but part of the actual refinement, or what I call nudging to perfection, I actually got a pretty good result for I got a great position statement from ChatGPT, but the solution hypothesis sounded to me like the experiments took too long. And I even told it that I said, look, these are good, but a 3-month testing period sounds expensive. It runs the risk of increasing the noise and the signal noise ratio. Takes a long time, and it could be that market conditions change within those 3 months. Can we can we be a bit more creative in providing tinier experiments? That's all. Notice now that my prompts are getting smaller and smaller. My actual refinement are getting more nuanced here. And ChatGPT has gone through this whole long thread here, and it did not disappoint with the solution
Mhm.
hypothesis. It gave me much smaller experiments that I feel, a 2-week beta test with a small group of frequent travelers. Love it. Okay. And that's something I can do. Then, I think the first suggestion was like a 3-month trial. And I was like,
Mhm.
three months trial is not. And the other one was A/B tests. I'm like, yeah, there's a problem with statistical significance when I don't have a
Yeah.
product out the door. So yeah. Now, notice the warning here. Do not use
Yeah.
generative AI as a source of truth. All right.
Mhm.
Use it as a great way to scaffold great conversations with your teams, with your stakeholders, with your managers. Always, always check and recheck the results, regardless of the tool you're using, even if you're using Bing, which has more up-to-date data. Again, as Robyn said so well about 20 minutes ago, the more context you give, the more direction you give, the less hallucination you're going to give, but it's not going to be
Mhm.
totally devoid of all that.
Yeah, these tools have a tendency to be very confidently wrong, not unlike humans, right?
Yeah, well, here's the thing. I actually think, they call it hallucination, but I actually, and this is a
Yeah,
term that I actually think this is improv vamping. So in other words, if
it
you've,
is.
yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah, when you think about it, if you've ever been in a musical or you've ever sung an opera and somebody's dropped a note, forgot an instrument, forgot to walk on
Mhm.
stage, you get a director doing this like, because you don't want to break the fourth wall. You
Yeah.
want to keep,
Yeah.
and I actually think that most of these generative AIs are trying to maintain that fourth wall appearance, like, we got it. We
Mhm.
know what we're doing. And so I think that's why it leads out with confidence, because it's trying to keep you engaged. It is a
Mhm.
little bit theatric, all of these. I mean, whether it's Claude or
Yep.
Bard, they are a little bit theatric. And like I said, we got a great set of solutions. And I got something I really liked that we could actually give to help our teams. And as you said, this, now that we did
Mhm.
we link this back to the business outcomes. And now that we refine this down in the positioning statements, we give our teams a fighting chance. I mean, think of how much more effective, your product marketing group is going to, how much they're going to love you when you walk in the door, starting the conversation like, look, I use generative AI, I scaffolded this. This is how I did it. I gave it the context. I gave it the pains and gains. I gave it the personas and segments. I even looked up some market data and added that. I went ahead and connected those to the business outcomes that the business wants. I connected the product outcomes to that. And now we've got this position, I even did some storyboarding here. And so can we start having a conversation on this problem and statement and solution hypothesis? And I think whether you're talking to your product marketing manager, whether you're talking to your key stakeholder or sponsor, whether you're talking to the engineering team, you give people a fighting chance when you can be this succinct 1 hour, 2 hours after you've been parachuted into the middle of a blazing fire. Because remember, the storyline was you woke up on Monday morning, hey, congratulations, you're on something new. And now you got to figure out what conversations to have here. Any thoughts or feedback on that?
Yeah, it can be really useful. I have found that being able to, and this is in speaking with a number of product managers and directors of products, that when you are trying to do good, healthy, proper discovery for the features that you're building, that can be very time consuming. So using a tool like this to help you scaffold that, it doesn't take the place of user research, but it can help you structure what it is that you need to focus on in that area, right? That's where having a good problem statement, a healthy solution hypothesis statement that is well refined is going to give you a jump start.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think even Jorge asks the questions that relate. And I love that breakdown. He asks, is ChatGPT 4 worth it in the sense of the framework you're using? Might it show better results? I think my answer has been, I've gotten better results in GPT Plus when I haven't been shouting the punchline at, I haven't been yelling the joke, and instead giving it more context. So for me, I've gotten better results. I think you have as well.
I have.
Yeah.
I have found ChatGPT 4 to be worth it. Again, it is, you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So when you give it the context and the structure, it is a little bit more sophisticated than 3.5. I also like to use more than one tool, as Dean has been showing, right? Go back and forth between the Bing chat, which is GPT based, but has access to the internet. It doesn't give you quite the same type of context as the other independent tools. I also really like Claude, and we're not going to get too far into the difference between the constitutional AI and different types of the ways that they work, but they are all a little bit different. And so using different tools can give you interesting results and really help you with that scaffolding, right? As you're looking and making comparisons and determining what other work that you need to do and where to focus, right?
Awesome. Hey, I actually want to go back. I love that. Yeah, using these different tools. I want to tie that back to a question that we just got from Rob in the chat. And I think he asked, did Marty Kagan's product opportunity assessment inspire this template here? Maybe you want to speak. In fact, why don't we just go here and talk about the templates here? Because you talked about, you said a couple things. You've been talking to, you've been talking to a lot of, oh, I've got the wrong one here. Give me a second here. You've been talking to a lot of directors of product, and you've been offering a lot of, you've been, helping people take these, what would you call it? These templates home with them. But could you ask, for Rob's question here, I think your inspiration's much more nuanced or much deeper than that, but I think it's a good question to start with.
So there are a lot of there's a lot of great contributors to product management practice and discipline as a whole, right? Marty Kagan definitely is an influence. We're definitely inspired by things like the Lean Canvas. Teresa Torres, who we did a webinar with last year, has some amazing product discovery work that she does. We enjoy partnering with her as well. So we have built these templates primarily based on, again, industry knowledge, the knowledge and experience of our training and consulting team, which is very rich, and then also talking to people like you.
Yeah.
My
In fact,
favorite day as a director of product management at a product management company is when I have phone calls scheduled
yeah,
with product managers in the field, with product directors working with teams. So
yeah.
we can talk about the problems that they're having and what we can do to help. So
In fact,
those
I
are
just
great
shared 2
gates.
links. So so
Yeah.
one of the links is, here's how you can, so that, here you can
Yep.
download a whole, I mean, how many in this pack here? I forget how many templates are in this one.
Yeah, so the playbook pack that we're
Yeah,
offering has 3 really great templates to help with go to market. So if you're doing a lot of this discovery work, that really helps you build the case. So these are different templates than what we showed today. So you get a flavor for everything that is in the full playbook. Definitely reach out if you're interested in the playbook, and there'll also be a link to purchase the full playbook if you choose to do so. But I also want to encourage anyone watching this webinar or watching the recording, or anyone who you would like to share this with. We are actively conducting product research on the impact of generative AI for product managers and product teams. So we have a short survey that we would love to have everyone fill out. And the link has been posted in the chat for those watching live, and will be sent out along with the recording. To give us some feedback, let us know how generative AI and these tools are impacting you as a product manager. And there is an opportunity to say, if you're willing to talk to us about your experience. This is not a sales call. This will be very much informational research for future curriculum that we're building. So would love to speak to you about what experiences you're having.
Yeah, Robyn. Yeah, Robyn. I know you've been talking to dozens of product people, and I have too here in the Raleigh area. Anyone who's gone to a product manager or an AI meetup here in town has probably been cornered by me, because it's for example, the scenario I was telling you about the other day, talking to someone who was a senior what do you call a senior product manager about to become a director for a large company and a large product. And during the course of the presentation at this meetup, I asked the question: what happens when your hippo boss comes charging into your room and says, "I don't care how you do it. You got 8 weeks to get generative AI on the map in our product, just make it happen." And you're just like, well, hold on a second here. And then the kicker is the Seagull manager follows in right behind, says, "Oh, by the way, I need you to amp up your operations using generative AI." So now you've got this poor product leader. And I think you've had more than one of those therapy sessions with some people in that situation.
Absolutely.
So just keep that in mind. We got some classes coming up. We got some opportunities here. You can join us on our group here, our community here on LinkedIn. Got a link there for the community here, and we got some class. I think the only thing left to do is open the floor for any questions here. And this is our chance to go back to talk to something here. This is our chance, if you want to, if we want to put my life in my hands and maybe run something live while I've got each of these, what would you call it? Maybe we can ask some more questions here. We're glad to go in and take questions, maybe see what happens if, now that we've created all this context, let's ask some questions and see. I don't know, what question would you like to ask? Let's see what happens since we put all, I've run all the prompts that we talked about. So the session's aware. I've used all 5 love languages carefully and lovingly. So what question would you want to ask next?
Not sure. Anyone in the chat have
somebody in the
idea?
chat. What question do we want to ask next? Here's a chance where I would put my life in my hands and no one's taking an opportunity.
Here we go.
I'm drawing a blank for questions right now because maybe I'm just too focused on this webinar.
Yeah. I'm curious what suggestions it would have about user research that could be conducted to help validate some of these hypotheses.
Yeah. Well, for example, I mean, here here's a question here. Draw. Let's see how well it knows how to do this on it without a lot of guidance. Draw. Let's see. let's go ahead and map out the pains, gains, and jobs. Oops. Jobs to be done from the user persona. Right? Let's see how well, because remember, now we've given it all this context. It's supposed to know what we're doing here. So let's see how well. I didn't give it any other instruction here.
Mm-hmm.
Can you differentiate the demographic between, oh, engine pen? I don't know if we can. I mean, I think that's an interesting question here. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
you know what? We'll throw that at Bing and see if it can do that. All right. So, but look, I feel like it did a good job with pains, gains, and jobs to be done here. All
Yeah.
right. And I mean, now it's just a one line. All right, Rob, since you were brave enough here, we're going to go over to Bing here and we still have this up. So let's go ahead and throw your prompt in and see what happens to our world here.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So we don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to go out and do a web search. And then it's going to go out to GPT-4. Whoa, we're getting answers. It talks about Gen X, millennials, boomers. Oh, what a great question. Who else has got a question? We need to give Claude a question here. So someone else needs to
Yeah.
come up with something because I've got that all loaded up here as well. Somebody, oh, we got to see. What models? All right. So while they're doing that, we got a question from Troy. We got two questions here. All right. So Jorge asks, how long would you say it takes for someone to master the use of these templates? And I think, Jorge, I'm going to assume you're talking about the templates that Robyn is providing here.
Yeah.
So why don't you answer that question on what it takes to master them effectively?
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's dependent on whether you take training from us. All right. But then sorry for the hype there. I got to do it. I got to do it.
It's an easy
So
question, right?
yeah, right.
So this is something that is that's interesting as we have been developing these templates and testing them and have them out in the market now for a couple of months. So what we are finding is that it is definitely a journey, and a lot of it is dependent on what kind of product management process you're currently using and how complex your product or industry is, right? So at a startup, you're probably going to be a little bit more lean than if you're working at a large company in a heavily regulated industry like banking or insurance, for example, right? You're going to have a few more phases that you're going to need to go through. But the templates in the playbook come with essentially some learning tools, right? It explains what the purpose of the template is, why it's valuable, where in the product management process we recommend using that template. And some of them you can come back to multiple times and fill in different areas. So I would say to get a good surface level use of the templates can be fairly quick within a few weeks. But we do, as Dean mentioned, offer our optimal product management course, which has been completely revised and updated this year. That will really help, and it goes into more detail on the product management process, the 280 grid blueprint, and then also the templates. And for teams, we offer additional consulting services to help kind of diagnose the maturity of your product organization, and then also recommend sort of stages for implementing different templates and processes that align with the type of business that you have and the type of industry that you're in.
All right. Awesome here. Got a question from anonymous attendee. Where do you get this playbook? Here's the link. I'll send the link to answer that question. I'll put the link again here in the chat as well. You could download that. And then we got Troy talking about what models would you use besides that. For me, if you notice, it's less about which models to use here. I mean, would we experiment with Llama? Maybe if we wanted to have our own home-baked private, what would you call it? Large language model here. Well, we were worried about that, but I think, being a product manager or being concerned of cost, I might just think, you know what, I can do the same. I can get the same outcomes with Azure for now, or with the recent ChatGPT enterprise launch yesterday, I can get close to the same outcomes where I'm at a point where I don't have to make that big investment in building a model from the ground up. In other words, why reinvent the wheel right now? And I'm showing this template on screen here, Robyn, to get back to what you're talking about and
Mhm.
it links back to this question that Troy asked here. It's more about the outcomes and the questions we're trying to answer. So if you notice when Robyn talked about, we have instructions and we're trying to
Mhm.
get specific because we're being nuanced here, because we gave it a lot of context at the top of the funnel. We actually don't encounter as many strengths and weaknesses. Uh, um, because again, the problems we're trying to solve are really around the less about the technology and more about the conversations
Mhm.
on the pains, gains, and jobs to be done here. Um, any other questions here? Well, I don't know,
Yeah.
Robyn. We didn't get a prompt. We didn't. Yeah, given the cost, let's see. We got to come here.
Mhm.
Yeah, consider the cost and leveraging models. Not yeah, yeah. I think, like I said, I think
Yep.
can I get proof of life with something that's already been built enough? This is especially true if
Yep.
you're in growth stage or in startup, or even if you're in a large
Uh,
organization running a skunk works. It's like, all right, I could build this from the ground up, but then the person who's
Mhm.
sponsoring this is thinking, how much technical that am I buying right now?
Mhm.
So there is those cost concerns, and while the engineers will argue with you, as product people, we actually do have to be somewhat cost conscious here. We still didn't get a question for Claude, so let's go ahead and ask a question about Tiptoe. All right,
There we go.
so how many birthdays will we celebrate for you? How many birthdays can we expect to celebrate with Tiptoe? Tiptoe, not tiptoe. Alrighty. And as you can see, because we've given it, the human side of the story here, let's
Mhm.
see what Claude does here. All right. So it looks like we're somewhere, in the neighborhood of 120 birthdays. All right. Um, and so if you're, by the way, if you're thinking of pivoting your product to celebrate toward its birthdays, here's a perfect play, perfect outcome to
There
pivot
you
on.
go.
I think we're done for the day. I
I
don't know
think
what else.
so.
I think
Yeah.
people have got meetings to go to and things like that here. Um, Folks, you can reach us out, reach us at 280 Group here.
Mhm.
I think, Dean.Peters at 280 Group. I think Robyn, is it
Mhm.
just Robyn Brooks or just
Just
Robyn
Robyn
B?
at 280
Just
group.com.
Robyn. You got here. Yeah, they started using Force.
ROBYN.
Yep. Oh, and look,
And
okay.
also,
Yeah.
I'll give one more plug for the survey that we'll be sending out at the conclusion of the webinar. Would love to hear some thoughts from everyone on how you're currently using generative AI, if you're using it, and what experiences you have. Do you have a hippo that has asked you to integrate it with your product? Do you have concerns around security? How could you use it? It's you are in a really heavily regulated industry. We would love to hear your thoughts and what your experiences are
Yep.
using this tool to get things done in product management.
Take the survey. Talk to Robyn. All righty. Yeah. All righty, y'all. Have a great rest of the day here. And thanks. This has been a really fun session. Yes, we will be sharing the recordings and so forth with that. You betcha.
Absolutely.
But have a great rest of your Wednesday. And for those of you on the other side of the planet there, just send me an email what Thursday is going to look like. And until
Excellent.
then, we'll see you all in the next webinar.